Hey, folks, Mackenzie Lambert here, joined with John Cleveland as always.
Hi, everybody.
It's going to be another segment of What a Year. This one, we're going to go probably the furthest we've ever gone. It's going to be 1974.
Wait till you one day, hey, let's do what a year for 1910. There's no films, but there's not 10 films to make.
Nah.
Yeah. No, this one was this was a bit of a stretch. Let's say.
Yeah. I mean, don't get me wrong, there's some bangers in this
Oh,
here.
100%. No, way more than I thought I was
Yeah.
gonna like. Yeah.
All right, so let's see here. I'll probably go ahead and throw mine in first for
Okay.
1974. My one honorable mention is Son of Dracula, starring Harry Nilsson and Ringo Starr. This this is out there, way out
I
there.
mean, I got some weird ones on my pick, so I'm not about to say anything, but I never even heard of that movie.
Basically, Dracula's father is killed, and so now Harry Nelson, who plays the son of Dracula, he's now tries to take up the mantle of his father, but he ends up falling in love with a mortal woman, so he has to choose if he wants to stay a vampire or if he wants to give up his vampirism to be with her.
And how does a beetle get involved in this?
Ringo Starr plays Merlin the magician.
Okay.
But the reason why I like this is because it actually probably features some of my favorite Harry Nilsson songs, "Without You" and "Dancing to the Fire," both of which are Scorsese favorites.
All
So,
right.
but yeah, that's my honorable mention, Son of Dracula. Now my main 10. Number 10, Three Tough Guys, which is a mix of blaxploitation and Polizio Tesci, because you've got Italian filmmakers and Isaac Hayes and Fred the Hammer Williamson.
The level of surprise that you chose that film is not high with me.
All right, my number 9, Death Wish with Charles Bronson, the just one of the greatest vigilante movies of all time.
Yeah. It started its own ridiculous subgenre.
Yep, yep. And this one doesn't pull its punches. There's some pretty nasty stuff in this movie.
It is my favorite film to bring up that it stars or it features oh, what is his name? Jurassic Park.
Oh, Jeff Goldblum?
Yeah.
Yeah, yep.
There's a thug in it,
Mm-hmm.
a rapist, and it's be like, yeah, he was in Death Wish. What? Yeah, no. Yeah.
Yeah. Number 8, The Beast Must Die, starring Peter Cushing. And for all you Harry Potter fans, what is it? It's what's his face? The one Richard Harris played, but when he passed away, Michael Gambon took over for him. Dumbledore. That's it. Yeah,
Hmm.
he was Dumbledore 2.0. And this is a horror movie mixed with an Agatha Christie mystery because you have to figure out who is the werewolf.
Well, wasn't this a TV special?
Nope, this was a theatrical movie from Amicus.
Oh, okay. Well, I mean,
Yep.
I do love Amicus, but
Mhm.
I was on the interpretation this was a TV special that was made to like every. Maybe I'm confusing it with another
Mhm.
of a similar thing, but yeah. No, I remember watching this. It's weird. It's not designed like a
Yep.
normal film.
No, and you have the werewolf break, which gives the audience time to try and figure out who they think the werewolf is.
Yes, which is, if memory serves, is pretty obvious.
Yeah,
But
but
yeah,
it's just such a great William Castle gimmick.
yes, it is a very gimmick. Yes, that
Yeah.
is a good way. It is a gimmick heavy movie. That is a good way of putting it.
My number 7, the directorial debut of John Carpenter, Dark Star.
Yeah.
Very strange. This is a student film that was turned into a feature film, so it's going to have those very eccentric moments.
I could write a dissertation on Dark Star, my man, and how the Aliens franchise is
Mhm.
thank you to Dark Star
Yep.
existing. Dune is thankful to Dark Star existing.
From Dan O'Bannon.
Yep,
Yep.
so many things are like so many influential things are only exist because Dark Star existed.
Mhm.
Now, I'm not saying they wouldn't have just gone out in the world and made themselves, but like it is one of those rare instances where three or four highly influential people just so happen to all go to college together and know each other.
Mhm.
It'd be like finding out that Scorsese, Coppola, and I don't know, Spielberg were college roommates. Like it's just one of those like what?
Well, you look at all the people that got their start under Roger Corman.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So
And there's actually there's a really nice little jab at George Lucas in this movie. After a bomb goes off, you see a toilet, and on the toilet is THX 1138.
yes. For For those who don't know that joke, that's Lucas's student joke,
Yeah.
and the only reason he got a job doing anything. Yeah.
All right, my number six is the original Gone in 60 Seconds from H.B. Halicki, who was the director, producer, lead actor, stuntman. He did everything in this
He did.
movie.
And the smartest thing he did was name his movie something Hollywood wanted, so they had to pay him for it
Hmm.
years and years later, decades later,
Yep.
actually.
Or at least his estate got a nice little
Yeah, yeah,
bonus.
yeah. It's like the guy who designed a movie called The Fast and the Furious in the 50s.
Yep.
Yeah.
Roger Corman. There
Roger
you
Corman,
go.
yeah.
All right, my number five, the first of two times that this director is going to appear, Young Frankenstein, directed by Mel Brooks, and just featuring just one of the best casts ever in a comedy.
It's on my list, so I'm
No,
not gonna gush about it now, but
no.
just be fully aware.
Hmm.
I love that film.
Yes, just some of the great wordplay, just some of the great physical gags.
It's just so quotable.
Hmm.
Again, I've mentioned this in previous lists we've done.
Yep,
This is amongst the most quotable films of all time to me. It's
yep.
also, in my opinion, one of the greatest comedies ever
Mhm.
made. Period. End of sentence. I don't care if it's a parody. I do not care.
And who knew Gene Hackman could be so damn funny? Who knew?
Because I also love that he's only in the movie because he really, really wanted to be in a Mel
Hmm.
Brooks movie. So they found they found a role for him that's now a known part of the Frankenstein canon.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Just so great. All right, number four, Black Christmas, directed by Bob Clark and just John Saxon, Margaret Kidder, Olivia Hussey. The arguably greatest slasher, Christmas slasher ever made.
Yeah, what? No, not arguably.
Mhm.
Who is arguing that?
Yeah.
It is. It's arguably the first slasher. If it's not the first slasher, it's the last proto
Mhm.
slasher. It is one of my favorite movies to watch around the holidays because I really like the fact that it brings a different element to the
Mhm.
holiday season. And it's literally one of the few films I can say every single year I rewatch it, it
Mhm.
gets better.
Yep.
Originally it wasn't on my top 10 favorite Christmas movies. Then it was like number 10 last year, or the year before it was like number 7 or 8. Then it was 6. Like
Mhm.
I will not be surprised when I'm like 60 it's number 1.
And I actually give it a rewatch again for this Christmas because we had that horrible winter storm, and
Yeah.
so I wasn't going anywhere. So I thought, you know what? Let me watch my regular viewings: Santa Claus on MST3K, and then Black Christmas.
Yeah.
And this is one of those movies where I'm noticing new things every time I watch
Every
it.
time. Every time.
Because there's this scene where it's in the living room. You have Andrea Martin and Olivia Hussey there talking, but behind Andrea Martin, you see the shadow of the killer, and it's like
Mm-hmm.
I didn't notice that before
Mm-hmm.
until now.
It's
So
so good. It's
yes.
so good. It's such an amazing film.
All right, my number three is the other Mel Brooks film, Blazing Saddles, starring Gene Wilder and Cleavon Little.
Hilarious. I mean,
Mm.
what can you say about the movie that hasn't already been said? They could
Hmm.
never make it today with
No.
PC culture and stuff.
Yep.
It takes everything to a beautiful extreme. I don't think it's in my top 10. I'll have to reference it
Hmm.
again because I do love it, but it's a little too campy for me
Hmm.
personally.
Yeah.
But again, ultimately quotable and hilarious and just an fu to no, you're not gonna not let me say the funny thing because I'm gonna make fun of it so you know and remember that we're talking about this. So
Uh, oh God, just a great scene where the mayor's trying to put the pen back in. Just think of your secretary. Ah, there you
yes,
go.
so great.
All right, my number two, the Texas Chainsaw Massacre from director Toby Hooper, starring Gunnar Hansen and Jim Sedow.
I also on my list. Full disclosure,
Hmm.
it I will say it has been falling in its importance in my opinion. Like first off, one of the most fundamentally important horror films of all
Hmm.
time. Toby Hooper, one of the greatest horror directors. Like I will say this, and I take all the slack. I know it. I do not think George Romero is a great director. I think he lucked into his first movie.
Hmm.
His second movie is proof that the Dawn of the Dead is proof that he was a good director. I will never take that away from
Hmm.
him. In my opinion, he didn't really produce anything that was above medial grade after that, and several of his other films are not good,
Hmm.
and they're not good from a directing standpoint. Which I've seen good directors just have bad scripts or bad actors. No, it's the direction that fails his film. So I will never say he's a great director. I will give him that he got lucky once and then made one good film. A couple other okay films, and that's it.
Mhm.
Toby Hooper, on the other hand, amazing director that never got enough credit for how fundamental he was to revolutionizing not only horror films, but independent film in general.
Yep.
Everything he made outside of one or two missteps was way above his pay grade in ability.
Mm-hmm.
And I will always say, with that said, though, it's in my top 10 list, but it's one of those that every time I rewatch it, I go, eh, eh, it loses something for me. Unlike Black Christmas,
Mm-hmm.
it gets better. I don't want to say it gets worse, but it doesn't get worse. It doesn't get better. It just keeps getting supplanted by newer things. I'll say that. I'll say that.
But I mean, looking at this film, this is literally like a waking nightmare cut on film. This is
Yeah.
insanity and celluloid.
Yes, it's and I don't like using these terms. It's revolutionary in what it was able to pull off, how it was able to pull it off. Viral marketing, you can argue it was one of the first to really get viral marketing.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't the first. It nailed it better than most.
Yep.
People were like, "Oh, you have to go see this. This is the scariest movie ever made. It's the most realistic. It's the most terrifying." Have you ever seen it? No, I've been told it. Well, it's just that's what you want, you know. So,
and people, I guess, have this Mandela effect where it's remembered as being the goriest movie ever, and yet
not at
there's
all.
hardly a drop of blood in it.
Yes, it does incredibly well with the almost no gore that the film has.
Mm-hmm.
For me, the whole grandpa scene at the end, I know narratively why it's there, really take away from the film. Mm-hmm. It's very obvious it's an actor in
bad makeup,
really bad old guy makeup, mm-hmm. And it doesn't, like, if it just came back and it was just the father from the gas station that set up, and then the crazy brother from the road and Leatherface, that would have been fun. I do not think the old man needed to be a part of the film at all, nor did it make any narrative sense. Mm-hmm. I've watched documentaries on it. I've watched stuff, and I get where some people are like, oh, it means this, and it's an indicator of mm-hmm. This and stuff. And I get it. It's just, for me, it's not. It ruins what would have been a damn near perfect film. Mm-hmm. So,
yeah. All right, and my number one. I couldn't think of anything else better than it, but it's the sequel to one of the greatest movies ever made, The Godfather Part 2, as my number one movie. Yep.
Yeah, because if it wasn't on your list, we were going to have a discussion.
You're going to have to sit me down and have a come to Jesus moment.
Yeah, like I've said this before, like, you can disagree on film. You can not like The Godfather. I'll be honest. Mm-hmm. Godfather's not my favorite gangster film. I like Casino more than Godfather. Mm-hmm. But if we're listening to the best films of that year, don't even get me started. You think The Godfather isn't in there? Are you serious? No, obviously it is. And if you don't think The Godfather is a great film, you don't understand film. Mm-hmm. I'm sorry, you don't. This is how it works.
Yep. And it does what every sequel should do. It builds on the last film. It expands the world. What they do with Fredo in this movie is absolutely amazing.
It's one of the 4 sequels that are arguably mm-hmm. better than the original.
Yep.
And like Aliens. I prefer Alien, mm-hmm. but I'm not gonna die on the hill that Aliens is a better film.
Yep. Or Star Wars Empire Strikes Back.
Star Wars Empire Strikes Back, although I don't consider either a great film, so mm-hmm. I never have that conversation personally. Mm-hmm. Terminator 1 and 2. I just 2 is a better film. I wish I could say the Terminator 1 was better because it's more of a horror film and not an action film, mm-hmm. but I'm sorry, Terminator 2 is a better film. Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's very few. Godfather 2 is one of those. Yeah, I'm not going to, again, die on the hill that Godfather 1 is better. I'm not, but it's so good.
Yep. So that is my selections for 1974.
All right. Well, of the 3,269 movies, according to IMDb, that were released in 1974, and I went through them all, folks. I'll give you a couple honorable mentions. I'm not going to get into everything here that just didn't quite make the list. I already mentioned Blazing Saddles, Murder on the Orient Express, The Taking of Pelham 1, 2, 3, mm-hmm. Foxy Brown, Chinatown, which trust me, so surprising not on your list.
Yeah.
The Street Fighter, which is
Sonny Chiba,
one of the first really great films of that weird Chinese, like Toho or Rising Sun Studios, that were made to be in America or
Mhm.
seem like they were made in America, and like it's a great movie.
But this is also the first one I remember where they actually go in on the gore, because there
Yeah,
are some really nasty spots in
yeah.
that
Mortal
movie.
Kombat has a lot to thank for the
Yes.
Street Fighter. Like we get the X-ray scene and stuff.
Hmm.
Like it's great. Uh, I gotta say Zardos. I have to at least bring it up. Uh, Dark
Sean
Star.
Connery in a diaper.
It's just a weird movie, man. I don't know what to say. It's a weird movie.
So weird that I've actually seen pictures of cutout cookies for Zardoz.
Yeah. And then there's also a lot of like so bad they're good,
Mhm.
fun little movies that came out that year that I like to just give a shout out to. The Bat People, which is a Mystery Science Theater
Mhm.
episode. Sugar Hill, which is a black
Exploit
exploitation
zombie
voodoo
movie, yeah.
zombie movie, which is a lot. Shriek of the Mutilated, which me and Mac have
Oh,
reviewed
yeah,
before. And I'd like to,
yeah.
if you lost the recording for it, I'd like to do it again.
Okay, yeah.
Frankenstein's Castle of Freaks, which is both was made by Elvira, covered it, and then eventually I think either Riff Tracks or
It's
one
public
of them.
domain, so yeah.
Oh yeah, no, it was Cinematic Titanic, I think, did
Okay.
that one. Yeah. The Cars That Ate Paris,
Mhm.
and The Legend of the Seven Golden Vampires, all of which are so bad they're good. They're good. All right. Either way, back to the list. Number 10 is a movie that I am surprised. I can only assume you've never seen it. It is right up your alley.
Okay.
The Conversation with Gene Hackman.
I've heard about it. I've heard of it. I've heard a lot of people talk about it, but yeah, I do really want to see it.
It is one of those movies that ever so often you'll hear about, and then more recently for me, I'm starting to see it appear on top 10 greatest films of all time list.
Okay, yeah, I know it deals with a lot of paranoia and government surveillance, so yeah,
Paranoid
absolutely.
government surveillance and the acting, and Gene Hackman at the
Yeah.
right after the French Connection, like well a little bit after the French
Mhm.
Connection. So like just really good film.
Sort of, I guess you can kind of say that Enemy of the State was a quasi sequel to this.
I know you say Wishes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Number 9, another film that I know I bought you. I know you
Hmm.
own this film,
Okay.
and again, I kind of feel it's because you haven't seen it. Is the only reason it's not on your list.
Okay.
Bring Me the Head of Alfredo Garcia.
Okay, I've heard about that. Yeah.
I'm not gonna
Hmm.
because I know you
Okay.
haven't seen it. I'm not gonna get into it.
Okay.
Watch it.
Okay.
Amazing acting, amazing script, amazingly shot. Definitely didn't have the largest budget in the world, but it doesn't suffer from that. You would never. I shouldn't even have brought up the budget.
Okay.
Basically, it's not a factor. But like, you're gonna like that
Okay.
movie. Number 8, because I'm a Bond fan.
Hmm.
How dare you not talk about the man with the golden gun?
Okay. Yeah, that's fair enough.
Yeah, I'm just a Bond fan, so there were going to be a
Hmm.
Bond film in there, and Christopher Lee, I love him to death. Not my favorite Bond film, but Man with Golden Gun's
Yeah.
is a really good Bond film. And Christopher Lee's like the prototypical perfect Bond villain.
I don't know. It has knick-knack, which I'm still kind of burned about. So.
Sure, but I can't help
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
I can't change how society made movies in the past. I apologize. All right. Number 7, I've mentioned this before. I will continuously mention it. I'm a fan of true crime. I'm a fan of serial killer movies and stuff. They're horrible people. I do not idolize them. I just want to make that clear. I just find them fascinating from a psychological standpoint. So number 7 is Deranged, Confessions of a
Mm.
Necrophile, which is the original Ed Gein movie. Not a movie inspired by his crimes like Psycho
Hmm.
was, and eventually Texas Chainsaw Massacre was. No, this is a movie about Ed Gein, the actual serial killer. And the part that I'm going to blow your mind with, the guy who plays Ed Gein in this is also the same actor who would later in his career be the old next door neighbor in Home Alone.
Yep. Old Man Marley.
Yep.
And I believe that was actually directed by Alan Ormsby, who was an associate of Bob Clark. So
Yep.
you have, yep, yep.
100%. Little, you could argue proto slasher. I am not arguing that
No.
point. It is not, but I've heard it said before.
Mm-hmm.
Number 6, because I just said it, the Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Mm-hmm.
Again, its relevance to me does go down, but it is revolutionary in the horror
Mm-hmm.
genre. If you got to respect it, it's like Night of the Living Dead.
Mm-hmm.
I don't care if you think it's a great movie, you better respect it.
Mm-hmm.
So, all right, not going to go on. We already talked about it. Number 5, because deep in my soul, someday I'll be able to get over this. Where the Red Fern Grows. There is a list.
Yeah.
I don't ever want to get into it, but there is a list of sadness in film and a ranking of said list. You want to get real depressed? Watch or read Where the Red Fern Grows. That will just ruin your mood. You are gonna cry.
I remember having to reading it for school, and I
Yeah,
remember I blacked it out of my memory. I'm just now recalling
yeah.
reading
I
it in
remember reading it in
school.
school. I remember because we actually had like a VHS copy of it
Mhm.
and its sequel. Dude, don't even get into why it has a sequel. That's just cashing in. But like, I remember reading it. I like it's probably the first book that made me cry. I was a kid,
Mhm.
but I'm not going to say it wouldn't do it now if I reread it. I'm mad enough to admit it. I'll cry in a good book. And boy, is it sad. Sorry to let you know it's a sad movie, but it's kind of like at this point. I mean, it was made 1974. I mean, I'm sorry if you don't know about it at this point.
Mhm.
Most of us read it in high school, so it is what it is. All right, number 4 is a pick. We're going to turn it completely around, remove all sadness, just replace it with campy joy.
Mhm.
Just like James Bond has to be on my list because I'm a Bond fan. Oh yeah, Godzilla has to be on this list
Mm.
too. Godzilla versus Mecha Godzilla. My favorite Godzilla movie is from 1974. I love that movie. I love the old school look of Mecha Godzilla. Like I didn't like I never thought he was special. He wasn't my favorite Godzilla movie growing up, but the older I get, the more I like that vintage look. And it's great, man. It's not the best Godzilla film. I'm not saying that, but it's my favorite.
Mechagodzilla is like one of the best of his rogues gallery.
Yeah, I would say so. That 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 scene where we discover that Mechagodzilla is there because he was pretending to be Godzilla
Mhm.
is just, and he shoots quick cuts and pans to all his weapons and stuff. It's just awesome. It's still the best character introduction except for Godzilla in any Godzilla film. Number 3, Black Christmas. We talked about it
Mhm.
enough. I'm not getting into it. It's great. If you haven't seen it, watch it. Number 2 is The Godfather 2
Yep.
for all the reasons we talked about already.
Yep.
And for me, if you notice, there's a parallel top 3 here. They were on your list. And number 1 is Young Frankenstein
Yeah.
because it's one of my favorite comedies, if not my favorite comedy of all time. For like 10 years of my life, it was my favorite movie. And like, I just love it to death.
And it's a real sincere love letter to Universal horror.
Yeah, it's a again, it's Mel Brooks, so it's a parody. It's arguably one of the best parodies of all
Mhm.
time. It's just hilarious. It's infinitely quotable. It doesn't. Again, you can. It's one of those films that I love watching, and I can show to my nephews and nieces.
And
Like
it uses the exact same props of the Frankenstein monster movies from Universal. So,
exactly.
yep.
So it's a fantastic film.
Yes,
So
absolutely.
yeah, 1974 was a banger year for.
Yes.
If you didn't pay attention to my list, mostly horror. But yeah, there's a spatter and
Yeah.
everything. But it's a really good year for cinema.
Hmm.
So
Yep.
I was surprised.
Yeah, so those are our selections for 1974. If you can recall that far back, if you're of the older demographic, feel free to definitely share some of your selections from that year that we may have missed.
Yeah. And if you're from a newer generation, it's a year worth checking out.
Yeah,
There's a couple solid flicks in there.
I mean, yeah, sure, you can say these are old movies, but as Tom Savini said, yeah, but if you've never seen it, it's new.
That's true. The
Yep.
first time you watch a movie, it's still the first time.
Yep.
Doesn't matter when it was made.
Yep. All right, so we're going to go ahead and sign off on this year. I'm Mackenzie Lambert.
And I'm John Cleveland.
Have a good night, folks.
Bye.
Hey, folks, Mackenzie Lambert here, joined by my good friend and colleague John Cleveland.
Hi, everybody.
This one's going to be another 2 out of 3 tenors episode because, oddly enough, Rob Hill doesn't have a countdown for film scores.
Which is weird. That feels like something he would definitely have a strong opinion on.
Yeah, so we're going to go ahead and come up with our own lists. We're not sure if we're going to have similar ones, if we're going to be just completely like on separate planes.
Yeah, because it's definitely one of those lists like where there are some that are just known. Like if you
Mhm.
Google top 10 film scores, there's going to be a lot of commonality, but at the same time it's what you're looking for. We like some of the lists will have like classic films that are like orchestras all the time. Some are just like, oh, it's Guardians of the Galaxy because the CD is full of
Hmm.
great hits, and it's basically the the film score is better than the film soundtrack is better than the movie,
Yeah.
something like that. So like, there's a possibility we're very different, but there's also a possibility our lists are going to be very the same. So we'll see.
Yeah, and there's also probably going to be a lot of nice variety because one instant you'll have like a full orchestra, and then the next minute you'll have like a 70s prog band.
Yes, yes, very. Matter of fact, that exactly happens. Yes,
Yeah.
yes. Mhm.
All right, so actually, John, we'll go ahead and let you go first with
Oh,
your
okay.
selections for film scores. So you can start with your honorable mentions if you like.
Okay, just a couple, as you guys should know me by now. I go crazy with honorable mentions, so I'm just going to rattle them off real quick, not even make a commentary about them. Terminator 2 Judgment Day, Star Wars Episode 3 A New Hope, Lawrence of Arabia, The Magnificent Seven, Casablanca,
Hmm.
surprise that's not on there, Raiders of the Lost Ark, Lord of the Rings, The Fellowship of the Ring,
Hmm.
Tim Burton's Batman,
Yep.
Blade Runner, 2001 A Space Odyssey, Jurassic Park, Highlander, which I'm still surprised didn't make my top 10 list. I love that soundtrack. Requiem for a Dream, Chinatown, and the original King Kong. Those are all honorable mentions. But some heavyweights.
Yeah, and I'm actually looking at my list, and it's like I realized, oh my god, I have no Danny Elfman, and I feel horrible.
Yes, I didn't because that is not. I love film and I like soundtracks. Do not get me wrong. I am not a snob as it pertains to, oh, this is an Elfman score or
Hmm.
this is a whoever else. It's just not the thing about cinema that entices me to spend hours going over it. I'm never gonna go see him a film because a specific composer did it. I am pleased with certain composers more than others, but it's just not my thing. So I don't even know if Danny
Okay.
Elfman has one, to be honest with you. Well, either way, with that all said,
All right.
my number 10, and I'm not gonna lie, this is mostly for one specific song.
Okay.
It's Psycho from 1960.
Ah, yeah.
That title theme
Hmm.
that Reanimator just straight stole.
And Busta Rhymes did a great track
Oh yeah,
sampling it.
yeah, is amazing to me.
Hmm.
It's so like I discovered it from Reanimator. I didn't
Hmm.
see Psycho before I saw Reanimator because I grew up in the '80s, late '80s,
Yeah.
early '90s, and so when I heard it and I found out about it and stuff like that, I just fell in love. I just
Hmm.
love that. Do, 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 do,
Yeah.
do. It's so it builds. It's so great.
And how many times have you heard the parody of the stabbing
Oh
violins?
yeah. All right. Number 9, and this is one of those that I've said before. Like, if you would have just said that, hey, John, what's one of your favorite film scores? Off the top of my head, I probably would have listed this one as one of my favorites.
Okay.
It's number 9, still is one of my favorites. I just actually anticipated it being a lot higher. And that is Superman the movie from 1978.
Mm.
There is still, in my opinion, never been a superhero score better than the Superman score.
Yep. And I remember too when Man of Steel came out, there was a bit of a fan flame war between the theme song for Man of Steel versus John Williams, and it's like you're gonna hear John Williams' theme for a lot longer than you will for the Man of
Sure.
Steel
It
theme.
also referenced it. I mean, it's one
Yeah.
of those things when you remake a movie that has an iconic element to it, handling that you have two choices. Do you update it for a modern audience, which is risky, but when it works is groundbreaking,
Yeah.
or ignore it and try to just do your own thing because, or sometimes, sorry, there's a third option. You can either try to remake it or you can just not include it at all and try to do something else, or you also can just use the theme. It weirdly goes in cycles where different eras of films seem to choose one as the appropriate, and like right now I think we're at the cusp of just use the original. We
Yeah.
don't care,
Yep.
even if it's very clear that look, we're not good enough to beat this, so this is just good. But it's a weird thing.
Hmm.
All right, number 8, it's The Godfather from 1972.
Mm.
Pillar to post, every
Hmm.
single musical aspect of that film, every song being used, everything
Yep.
just makes the film better. It works with the flow, it works with the tempo, it works with the scene. It's just beautiful. There's a reason it's one of the greatest films of all
And
time.
then you get those moments of tension, like with when Michael is trying to get the gun out of the toilet and bathroom, and he
Oh
doesn't
yeah,
feel it at first, and you get that little suspenseful sting, like is he not going to find the
yeah.
gun?
Is his whole plan?
Yeah.
Yeah. Number 7, one that's a little bit of a surprise, but I couldn't not include it.
Hmm.
Rocky from 1976.
Oh yeah, the Bill Conti. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah, 100%. I mean, it just, and I'm not even like, again, the Rocky series is known for a very key song, usually played during the montages that each
Yeah.
of the films has, but just the whole soundtrack is a great. It's great to work out to. It's just a good
Mm-hmm.
soundtrack.
Yeah.
Number six, because if I wasn't gonna have Halloween, or if I wasn't gonna have Highlander, Queen was not going to get ignored. I refuse.
Mm-hmm.
So number six is Flash Gordon from
Ah!
1980. Yeah, he'll save every one of us.
Yeah.
Ask me tomorrow. It's Highlander in that spot and Flash Gordon isn't, but like I had to have one of them,
Mm-hmm.
and just in that moment, Flash Gordon sounds like a better soundtrack than seems sacrilege to say than Highlander, but all right. Number five is my favorite soundtrack to listen to while I'm playing any kind of RPG game, some D&D, some Call of Cthulhu, some whatever, highly appropriately some Conan, is the Conan the Barbarian theme from 1982. The whole soundtrack is the best nerdy fantasy soundtrack of all time. It beats Lord of the Rings, in my opinion. It beats Pirates of the Caribbean. It beats anything. It is simply the best.
Mm-hmm.
Number four, Jaws from 1975.
Yep.
Because if you can't have the shark because it doesn't work,
Mm-hmm.
the music is going to have to
Yes.
do. And boy, does it. More than any other thing on here, the soundtrack makes that film work.
And not only do you have John Williams, who I believe composed it, but you've got Harry Mancini, who's the conductor for it. So you've
Yes,
got two music heavyweights working on that one.
100%. And just to give a little shout out on another film that did basically the same thing, or it ate the same thing,
Mm-hmm.
Friday the 13th.
Yep.
The soundtrack, the music sting, the soundtrack to the whole thing is great. Not amazing, it's good, but that substitution of a musical sting, a musical element
Yep.
to substitute the villain was just masterfully done in Jaws and aped by something like Friday the 13th.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Number three, which I think is you're probably going to be number one, knowing you,
Okay.
is Suspiria from 1977.
Okay. I'm gonna let you. I'm okay. I may or may not surprise you, but we'll see. We'll
Yes.
see.
Okay. It's probably still got Goblin. Let's be clear. Either if you surprise me, it's just going to be a different Goblin soundtrack. So, all right, number two, because just like Jaws, just like Thing, the
Mhm.
soundtrack is an integral part of the film. It carries certain elements, and because the minute you told me we're going to do film scores, I knew John Carpenter had to be on
Yes.
here,
Yep. Yep.
and I really wanted to put The Thing because it really works. However,
It's technically more Coney.
yes, Halloween from
Mm.
1978
Yep.
is, if you try, and I've said this before, I was once told this by an art professor of mine. I didn't believe it until I tried it. Horror is defined by its soundtrack.
Hmm.
If you watch a horror film on mute, you get nothing of what it's
No.
intended, unless it's designed that way, and there are a couple out there, but horror is its soundtrack. Horror is its audio, 100%.
Yep.
And Halloween is a perfect example,
Hmm.
arguably the pinnacle of that example.
Yes.
And number one, because Fight Me is the good, the bad, and the ugly.
Yeah. Yep. Yep.
Because if you're talking soundtracks, nothing's as bold as an epic, but the Western epic is the good and the bad and the ugly.
Yep.
So you get both that Western soundtrack,
Hmm.
an epic soundtrack. It's you get a little, arguably a bit of the not the synth pop or
Yeah.
any of that like Italian synth. What am I thinking of? Like Goblin is
Like, yeah, it's progressive.
progressive. It's
Yeah.
not that, but you cannot convince me that that is not the seed that germinated progressive
Hmm.
uh, music is stuff like Murdercone.
Yeah.
It's so great. To this day, that opening theme for it, the good, the bad, and the ugly, is
Oh,
what
yeah.
Metallica like enters to.
The Ecstasy of Gold is what they enter
Yes,
to.
it's
Yeah.
so good, so
Yeah.
so amazing. Favorite soundtrack of all time. Favorite film score of
Oh,
all
yeah.
time.
Yep. All right. Wow. That's good. A lot of good stuff there.
Yes, yes.
All right, for my honorable mentions, first I have to include Luigi Ceccarelli for Strike Commando.
What?
Yeah. There's the main opening theme, which is pretty good, but then also you got that awesome synth theme that plays at the end after he kills Dakota. That amazing synth is just, I love it.
I'm just gonna say no comment. That's all I'm gonna say. We're not gonna get in a thing about this.
Okay, yeah.
That you just put Strike Commando on one of the best film scores.
Yep, I did. Okay, next one. James Horner for Aliens.
I I should have put Aliens in my honorable mentions. Good call.
Simply for the fact that every 90s action movie trailer used that same track from this movie.
Well, in all fairness, if you're doing that, you're gonna have to put Inception on there because
Yeah,
to this day, trailers are trying to be the Inception trailer. But that's a different
yeah.
topic.
All right, and my last honorable mention is the duo of Asai Kobayashi and Miki Yoshino for Houseu.
It is a weird soundtrack,
Yep,
but
that
for a very weird movie, so
yep.
that makes sense.
That wonderful crazy piano theme, and then when it's an action sequence, you've got that almost Jeff Beck like guitar work. So yeah, those are my honorable mentions.
Okay.
Okay, the main list. Number 10, Bob Colbert for The Night Stalker. Basically, imagine if Dave Brubeck did a horror score. That's
Okay, yeah,
exactly what this
I
is.
can see that. I can
Mhm.
see that on. Not only does that make complete sense for you, on you, me knowing you, your top 10,
Mhm.
but yeah, that's a fair. That's. I regret not putting that on my honorable mentions.
Number 9, the duo of Guido and Maurizio De Angelis for Street Law. Just because not just a music score, but they were actually able to include like very top of the pop type tunes for this music score. Driving All Around is a pretty good one, and Goodbye My Friend. So good that The Rock used it in one of his movies, Faster.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Huh.
Oh, and I number 8. I said I didn't do a Danny Elfman soundtrack, but this score does have a Danny Elfman track. It's Army of Darkness. Joseph LaDuca did the main score, but uh, Danny Elfman contributed March of the Dead.
Oh,
So,
okay.
yep.
All right. Hmm.
And there is a track in here by LaDuca. It's like the scene where Ash fights the Little Ashes.
Yeah.
There is a very Elfman bounce type track to it.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Number 7, Elmer Bernstein's for Ghostbusters. It has that night when it gets tense, it really elevates the horror, and but it also has those moments of quirk that fit perfectly with the Venkman character.
Yeah, it's a dark comedy.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Number 6, Bernard Herrmann's Psycho.
Yeah.
Yep,
Yeah.
yep. Just because, and I do just because Buster Rhymes is just give me some more is just an amazing sampling of that track.
It's a weird, weird world we live in.
Yes. All right. Number 5, John Carpenter's Halloween.
Yeah.
From top to bottom, from the main theme to Laurie's theme
Yep.
to the Haddonfield theme, the
Yep.
chase music, everything works.
Yeah.
Number 4, Stelvio Cipriani's for A Bay of Blood.
Okay.
Mhm,
Yeah. I still like. I don't know. It's about me. That film does not resonate as being this cultural icon
mhm,
that like everywhere I turn, people like it is,
mhm,
and I just it's never stuck with me like that. So I think I always and maybe don't underrate. I just never even thinking about
mhm.
it for stuff like that. Yeah.
It's got a main theme with a great mystique. It's
Mhm.
got some disarming pieces to it, and just the closing theme. After spoiler alert, the kids kill their parents. You got that little choral bit at the end of it. I just love it.
All right.
A week doesn't go by where I don't play that soundtrack.
Damn. All right.
Yeah. Number 3, Goblin, but it's the post Simonetti era. This is Alien Contamination.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's a great mix of their gothic horror, but also with a sci-fi tint to it.
Okay. I don't hate it. I mean, I'm a big fan of
Hmm.
Goblin too. Don't get me wrong,
Yep.
but I would, like I said, I assumed you were gonna do Suspiria. All right.
And the thing too about this one too, Contamination, I listened to the soundtrack for years before I saw the actual movie. So it's like the music kind of like I was expecting something really epic or really horrifying. Instead, I get this almost Italian Roger Corman esque
That
sci-fi.
is a great way to explain that movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, buy the soundtrack, don't buy the movie. And I like, trust me, I like making fun of bad movies. I love them to death. It's my favorite hobby. I'm gonna tell you right now, that movie's boring. I fell
Yeah.
asleep watching
Yeah.
it.
It does leave a lot to be desired, unfortunately.
Yes.
All right, number 2, John Williams' score for The Empire Strikes Back.
Yeah, I kind of. That's not my thing, but I get it. I
Another
100% get it.
another one top to bottom. It gave us the amazing Hoth battle theme. It gave us the Imperial March, which
Mhm.
is basically Darth Vader's theme song.
Yeah,
The music for Bespin, the music that plays when Yoda elevates the X-wing out of the
yeah,
swamp is
yeah.
amazing.
I liked A New Hope, but I have to say that I'm not the biggest Star Wars fan in the
Hmm.
world. I know, burn me alive. I'm a horrible human
This
being.
is
But I will say that I do think if you stopped a stranger on the street and said, sing a song from Star Wars across the board,
mhm.
even with all the new Star Wars content that they're releasing, it's still going to be like Vader's thing,
Yeah.
probably. Yeah.
And number one, this should not be a surprise. Ennio Morricone's The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly.
Yes, because if you don't choose that, you're wrong.
No, yeah,
No,
the great
that's
main.
not true. But yeah, like it's so good.
Yeah, the main theme, even some of the more slower, like calmer pieces, like the one when they're at the Civil War battle,
Yeah,
the music there is really good. And
pillar to post, man.
yep,
It's fantastic.
when Tuco is running through the cemetery, that music carries that moment.
Yeah, and the fact that there are, I mean, narratively, if you're unfamiliar with the film, get familiar with the film. Something's wrong
Yeah,
with you.
this is one of those must
Yes,
watches.
I do not accept that you have never seen this movie. It is an inappropriate thing to respond to, in
Hmm.
my opinion. But with that said, it is a narrative with three main characters,
Hmm.
and each one has a different theme. Each one brings a different tone to the film. The scenes they're in, independent of the other two, the music reflects that.
Hmm.
It builds them as fully realized forces that are at a collision course, and it's just beautifully made. It's a theme song where I like sometimes I'll be writing and I'll
Hmm.
that's a soundtrack I put on. Another great one for role playing for all you role players out there. It's a pretty epic soundtrack.
And also too, I know you don't really normally associate comedy with Sergio Leone or Eastwood, but
Not at all.
the music is actually used to punctuate some great funny moments, like
Oh yeah, with
"See
Tuco.
you soon, Edie, idiot, it's for
Yes,
you," and then
yes.
that.
Such a good movie.
Yeah.
Such a good movie.
All right, so those are our lists for the top 10 best film scores. Feel free to definitely share yours in the comments below because we're curious because
Oh, we missed so
yeah,
many.
yeah.
There's somebody out there is raging that neither of us mentioned Fast Times at Ridgemont High
Hmm.
or what's the other one that's like known for how good its soundtrack is? 70s Ben Affleck.
Oh, Dazed and
Days
Confused.
and Confused
Yeah.
is known for having the best soundtracks of all time,
Yep.
and we didn't mention it either of us. So
Although there kind of needs to be a distinction between soundtracks and film scores because I know some people might.
yes, yes, and I'll be the first one to not because I'm not that music is just not
Hmm.
my field. I listen to it passively. I have favorite artists, but I'm not a music guy. I'll say that.
Yep.
I definitely put some in here that are soundtracks more than film scores, and I try not to, but it's just not my field of study. So
All right, so that's going to conclude this list. I'm Mackenzie Lambert.
I'm John Cleveland.
Have a good day, folks.
Bye.
Hey, everybody. Mackenzie Lambert here, joined with my good friend and colleague, John Cleveland.
Hi, everybody.
This is going to be our continuing installment of our recent segment, Character Actor Corner.
Mhm.
And since last time we looked at a Red Brown film, we decided to go ahead and pick an actor that he appeared alongside with. And that is, of course, the one and only Cameron Mitchell.
Oh, thank goodness he's the one and only. I'm serious. The bar tab wouldn't allow for anymore.
Who do you think had the bigger bar tab, Mitchell or Ric Flair?
Mitchell. I mean, I was concerned of who you were going to say. Was it going to be? Were you going to bring up like I don't know, what's other actors who were known for? What is his name?
Oliver Reed?
Oliver Reed, who died drinking. Who's the other one? Wings Hauser.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah.
All right, so but first, let's go and just get into some little bit of biographical details for Cameron Mitchell. Mitchell was born in Dallastown, Pennsylvania. He made his Broadway debut in 1936. In 1944, he served as a bombardier for the U.S. Army Air Forces during World War II. His film career began when he was contracted to Metro Goldwyn Mayer in 1945, working alongside with the likes of John Wayne, which,
Not bad.
no, big deal. He worked for 3 years before going back to the stage. Mitchell originated the role of Happy Loman in Arthur Miller's Death of a Salesman, reprising the role in 1951 for the film adaptation. When he signed with 20th Century Fox, he took on leading roles in Les Miserables and How to Marry a Millionaire, co-leading with Lauren Bacall and Marilyn Monroe.
Yeah, my movies aren't going to have that aspect of his
No,
career in
not me
them.
neither.
Yeah.
The 1960s marked his turn to the Italian film industry, working with the likes of Mario Bava and Sergio Corbucci. For those who may not know, Corbucci was the one who directed the first Django film, not one of the
Oh,
many rip-offs.
I didn't know that.
He was the fashion house owner in Blood and Black Lace for Mario Bava.
Mhm.
The 70s and 80s, he was prominent in low-budget exploitation. The Klansmen, Slavers, The Toolbox Murders, The Swarm, The Demons, Silent Scream, Raw Force, Low Blow, From a Whisper to a Scream, Deadly Prey, Space Mutiny, and Terror in Beverly Hills are just like a sampler of the films he worked in.
Yeah, in the '80s, the man was the Christopher Lee of crap, which
Uh,
is saying something if you saw Christopher Lee's work in that era.
yeah. Mitchell sadly died of lung cancer in July 6, 1994.
Yeah, it was either that or liver cancer.
Mm-hmm.
There was something gonna get him because we weren't joking, folks. Next to Jan Michael Vincent and Wings Hauser, I've never seen an actor more drunk on screen. I am serious. I honestly would love to sit down and try to decide which actor ruined a performance more by being visibly drunk. If it was Jan Michael Vincent, Wings Hauser, or Cameron Mitchell,
Mm-hmm.
all of them were several films they're in are visibly drunk
Yep.
while filming. And I mean, it's sad. That's a sad thing, and it ruined basically all three of their lives. But I'm gonna laugh at that because they took a paycheck for it, so
Mm-hmm.
they agreed to be viewed by people in that state. So I'm gonna have to say it's personally okay if you laugh at
Mm-hmm.
them.
All right, I'll probably go ahead and just quickly go through my
Oh
picks.
sure, yeah,
Number 3, I picked the Toolbox Murders just because it's hilarious. And first, they try to hide the fact that it's Cameron Mitchell. They try to hide his identity. But with those eyebrows, you obviously know it's Cameron Mitchell.
yeah.
Yeah, and he's got that that great little LOLLY, EOP spells lollipop.
Yeah, he's got shit. He's somewhere between Wings Hauser and I don't know Gary Busey.
Mm-hmm.
He's got a weird energy.
My number 2 is Blood and Black Lace, just because that's probably like the most straight lace I've ever seen him.
Yeah, it's arguably one of his best
Mm-hmm.
films too, as well. I would say.
And it was really one of the films that kickstarted the giallo genre for Italy.
I would dare say the first.
Yep.
Yeah.
And my number 1, Terror in Beverly Hills, just because this has my favorite Cameron Mitchell lines.
Close
the fucking doors!
He's in it for like 5 minutes, but he is the 5 minutes you will
Yes.
remember.
Yeah, I'm watching the news. What are you watching? A porno movie?
Yeah.
So those are my wonderful Cameron Mitchell selections.
Oh, it's so amazing.
John, you go right ahead.
All right, so I got a couple honorable mentions, but basically the same kind of things that we've already talked about. I think and let's be very clear. My version of Cameron Mitchell enjoyment is watching him stumble his way through lines and scream openly at people. It's just what I enjoy. So I suggest films like Kill Squad, Supersonic Man, Low Blow, Night Train to Terror, which is a horror anthology, and boy is it bad. Terror in Beverly Hills, obviously. Toolbox Murders, of course, and Frankenstein Island, which I'm going to warn you, watch the Riff Tracks version. That movie's a stale sit. But when it comes to my top three, in order, number 3, which I'm a little surprised wasn't in yours, is Deadly Prey from 1987.
That monologue at the end.
He's only in the movie, about half the movie, and he's definitely a secondary character, but there is a point where he has a monologue that it will be impossible for you to ever convince me wasn't just something he just went on a tangent and started talking about while drunk. And they're just like, keep rolling. Why? It's the only footage we're going to get today. Just keep rolling. He just goes on a tangent
No, and that was actually on our the monologues episode we
One
did. That
hundred
was
percent.
yeah, that was one of my favorite monologues. So much so that I had to actually include it in the video.
Yes,
So if
because
you
it's
want to actually see
great.
what we're talking about, go check out that video on YouTube.
Yes, it's hilarious. Also, if you want to watch a hilarious, so bad it's good, get a couple friends together, get some drinks, depending on which state you're in, maybe get some pot, and have a good time. Deadly Prey is 100% that. There is a Riff Tracks version. You do not need it. It is hilarious by itself. A man is beaten to death with his own arm. What more do you want me to tell you? All right. Number two, coincidentally, also first discovered from this time Mystery Science Theater. It is a classic episode, one of the best, Space Mutiny.
Mm-hmm.
Again, I would suggest the Mystery Science Theater version because the movie is a hard watch without it, but you get a couple of friends together, have some fun, you can make it fun too. But in
Yep.
Space Mutiny, it's from 1988. It is, I'd say, about 20% stock footage from Babylon, not Babylon 5,
Battlestar Galactica.
Battlestar Galactica stock footage mixed with let's film in an old abandoned Italian like factory, and that'll totally work for the inside of a starship.
Actually, not Italian. Oddly enough, Australian.
Whatever.
Yeah.
Not American. It's I honestly sometimes will be watching that movie and think this has got to be the same place they filmed Your. I know it isn't,
hmm
but let's just say that there is more railing kills, which is a running gag in the Mystery
Yep.
Science Theater. There are more railing kills than anything else. Somebody gets shot, fall over a railing.
hmm
Sometimes they just jump over a railing. It's
And
amazing.
just the nicknames they come up with for Red Braun's character is just
Oh yeah, yeah,
it's become lexicon.
absolutely.
hmm
But as it pertains to Cameron,
Yes.
Cameron is Mitchell is the captain of this, who dresses like a he dresses like Santa if he had a moo on.
You're getting a lump of coal.
It also, yeah, it also like, and it's hilarious. It is utterly hilarious watching him try.
Mrs. Claus and I have an understanding.
Yes, it's hilarious. Highly suggest. Highly suggest. Also, he is deep rooted in that film. Like, he was one of the reasons the film was able to get made based on his name, because at that point he still had marquee value to some degree. So the movie is also littered with his relatives and in-laws. So, but either way, and number one, and mostly I chose this not because I think it's a better role or something like that. He's just in it a little bit more than the Space Mutiny and Deadly Prey. But he's in it about as much as he is Space Mutiny, but he's got the energy level of Deadly Prey for most of it. It's raw force from
Yep.
1982. Uh, he is a drunk ship captain that goes to a forbidden island on a tour that has monks that use zombie ghosts to cannibalize women that they buy selling jade to live forever. Also, kung fu. I don't know what else I need to explain to you about this movie and why you need to watch it. That sounds hilarious.
Mm-hmm.
And Cameron is basically just winging it in every scene, and it's great.
Mm-hmm.
Hilarious film. Again, another so bad it's good. Get your friends together. There's a riff tracks. It's funny.
Yep.
But I actually think it's better without the riff tracks, just you and your friends having a
Oh
ball.
no, yeah, the movie itself is absolutely hilarious,
Yeah.
and you got some great cameos too. I think Jewel Shepard from Return of the Living Dead's in it; she's got a cameo, and Camille Keaton from I Spit on Your Grave has a bit part in it as well.
And let me be clear here, she has a bit part. Even though she's not top build, but she's on the cover build,
Yep.
I'm going to make it very clear. She's in one scene that lasts 2 minutes.
Yep.
And she's only in there because she agreed to be topless.
Yep.
She's not in any other scene.
No.
She's literally never referenced again. So don't watch the movie for that, but it is interesting.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right, no, that was a lot of fun learning a little bit more about Cameron Mitchell.
Yes.
Yep.
Yes. There are at least one or two more movies I need to watch his unique brand of comedy. Yes.
All right, so but for this one after Cameron Mitchell, we're going to do a bit of a hard reset on this one because I
Okay.
don't know where else we can go after Cameron Mitchell.
Well, who are we going to do next after Cameron? What's the opposite of Cameron Mitchell?
Probably probably one of the most credible, greatest character actors of all time, and I figure why not David Warner? I think,
Okay.
yeah,
Okay. I can. Yeah, I like David Warner.
yeah,
Don't think I can name 5 films he's in that I think I want to list, but sure. I I like all those 5 films
hmm
though. We'll see.
yeah.
We'll
We'll
see.
see. All
Yeah.
right, but no, for next time on Character Editor Corner, it's going to be David Warner. So until next time, this is Mackenzie Lambert
John Cleveland.
signing off.
Bye.